welcome everyone. So this is our first of our 4 classes. Lovely to see everyone, except for I can see only myself. So that's a little bit disconcerting. Claire, if you'd like to spotlight the colour wheel, because that's what we were going to start with first in a minute. And it's portrait view, I see what you mean. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do today and over the next 4 weeks. And then what I wanted you to do was see how the 2 of you that were with me last time got on, and any questions. Then we will move to what we're doing today, which is talking about colour. We're doing something completely different. We're talking about colour, we're talking about colour wheels and sort of painterly effects. So that's going to be covering over this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about infilling with pictures and drawing with lines. So you've got some homework to do. The following week, we're going to be looking at textures and including fabrics. And then the last week, we're going to be doing a whole recap and putting them all together. So Claire set up a WhatsApp group so we can all sort of communicate and maybe share. It might be easier to share pictures as you know as we go, A, through the day, but B, through the next week. Okay, so that's the sort of the plan we have. Are you all on unmute?
Yes. Yeah.
But I say it's very disconcerting because I can't see you, and you can see me. So how did you get on after Sheila and Nikki, after the introduction session? Have you had a chance to play?
I've had a play at just doing lots of pre-felts. I haven't actually got a finished piece of work to show you, but I have been trying to see how colours react with each other, and just really experimenting with the whole pre-felt thing.
Brilliant. So you've been making sort of different stages, so soft pre-felts and sort of firmer pre-felts, etc. Yeah. And
so if
have you been?
I can spotlight Sheila.
Yep, that'd be nice. Just have a chat to Sheila. Brilliant. So so have you been making? That's nice to actually see your face, Sheila. So have you been making multicolored pre-felts, or have you been making just solid pre-felts?
No, multicolored, sort of various
Brilliant
sort of colors.
Yes.
I also did, my husband had some mussels the other day and I kept the shell, so I've done sort of 3 muscly sort of colors.
Oh, very nice.
I thought I might try to sort of do some mussel shells.
Excellent, brilliant. So they look quite soft pre-felts, very soft pre-felts.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They're not very thick.
Okay, so if you're thinking about making mussel shells and wanting it to be very defined, do you remember we talked about making the thicker pre-felts, so that the thicker and the more dense the pre-felts are, the better the lines that will the definitive edge.
Yeah.
With very soft pre-felts, they're going to disappear in quite a bit, aren't they?
So does that mean that I could put more on the back?
Have a look. Yes, you probably could. If they're very, very soft, then you could actually, they look very gossamer and soft.
Yeah.
So what you could do is actually work upside down. So you put your, I can see this decoration, isn't there, on the front? You could put the decoration, so the decoration is face downwards. And you've got you could build up the back maybe with, I would just get a little brush if you've got, or just maybe if some of the hairs could stick up a bit, especially when it's dry like now. So you could fluff up the back a little bit if you could, not too much. That would just help to bond any new fibers. And you could just, in maybe just traditional layout, so you can, in alternative directions, like the 2 layouts we do, put a background color of, say, black or gray or whatever, and just build it up so it's slightly thicker, felt it down a little bit, and then you'll get a very much more solid shape when you come to cut those out and add them.
Sheila, can you place your camera so we can actually see them flat, what you've made? They look lovely.
Or No, probably not. Hold them
No,
up.
well, it's on the laptop,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
so I don't know.
Yeah, they look
I-
lovely.
The sun's shining in as well, isn't it? So
Yes. Have you got silks in those?
well, you gave us a little packet of
Viscose?
viscose,
Yeah,
yes,
brilliant.
which are lovely, but I couldn't find where I could get more of those.
Okay, I will put a link. World of Wool do that.
Oh, I have got some more actually. Some more of the wool from World of Wool.
Right,
But
excellent.
I couldn't see these on their website.
Okay, I'll send you the link, and if not, I'm very happy to send you some. I've got different colours as well. I've got black, white, blues, yellows, and things like that. So I'm happy to pop some in the post for you. But World of Wool do it. I'll double check that later when
Okay.
we've offline. All right. Okay, brilliant. And where are we, Nikki?
Should we have a look at yours?
Yes, hi. I've done various little pre-felts of all sorts of different
Lovely.
colours and textures, and I don't know
Do
if
you-
you can see all those.
Yeah. So your pre-felts look a lot thicker. I don't know whether you can see from looking at
They are.
Sheila's. Yours
Yeah.
are much thicker. So you could cut out, for example, the mussel shells, and you could cut out those, and you would get the more definitive shape, and it would stay as it went into a background. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So a real mixture, actually, just
Yeah.
experimenting with colours and things. And then I was working on a project for something else, and I did this, which I then sewed on a coronavirus. It was part of a coronavirus project. So that was I was quite pleased with that felt. I quite liked that.
Yes.
And then there were just various other things, more coronavirus, but they weren't very bright. But I put, things on.
So did you make a white coronavirus and cut out a circle there
I cut out a circle, yes.
and put it into the background?
Yes. And
Right,
blue,
brilliant.
but you can't really see the blue and the
You
grey.
can see the grey one. Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't really see the blue. But oh, and then I had some bits left over, and I was trying to do a rainbow, but I didn't have enough colours, so it wasn't really a rainbow. But anyway, I've had a lovely time playing with them. And then I think there was one other one. Oh yeah, that one which I did just straight after the
Yes, brilliant.
course.
So your white spots have gone in well, that you found they felted in okay?
Yes, they did. I was surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I
Good.
did.
Brilliant, well done. And I don't know whether you found that if you have leave the pre-felts to dry, they actually will go in better because they're fluffier. Does that make sense? When they're wet, those fibers and the scales have they're still sort of attached themselves. When they're dry, you'll find the back is actually fluffier and goes in easier.
Okay.
It's much easier. So I tend to make pre-felts ahead of time and just have them stacked up ready for when I'm doing the project.
Yeah, I think the white was left over from the kit, actually, that you gave us the original kit.
Right. So that will go in well. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. That's good.
Hello to Pamela, just so you can see her.
Yeah. Hi, Pamela. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice that you're joining us. So for the other two, Pamela's done workshops with me before, so she has a little bit of experience, don't you? Making cushions and making pre-felts.
Yeah, I've got quite a few pre-felts from
Yeah, brilliant.
when I've been with you before. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So
Put it back on
you're
the.
joining us just for the first hour, aren't you?
Yes, that's true. Just for the first hour today.
Yeah, but then you'll be able to see the video from this if you have to go. All right. It's a bit difficult for me because I can't see everybody, but I'm just going to move my color wheel away because everybody can see my table. And let's have a look. Just to recap what we did last time. Excuse me. Do you remember so you've been doing brilliantly, and we've been making pre-felts, and we were using the grid to start shrinking down and just seeing it's quite a good idea to use that grid. Mine is over here somewhere. Where is it? To have a look at the grid and to start at a certain size, and then you know how much you've shrunk by. This has been cut, wasn't it? Because I chopped it up while we were in class. And it's also good to see how when you've got some wool that you don't know where it's come from or a new supplier, just to see how far it will shrink down. And I laid out, like we did last week, the last time, the 10 grams, and it managed to shrink right down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 40% of original size, which is quite a lot. A lot of people will get to, we were discussing this, a lot of people will get to sort of this size. And I think that was probably about there, wasn't it, when it started? And they think that it's actually fully felted. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat today. Excuse me. But it doesn't matter for a picture. If you're going to put it on the wall or you're going to stitch into it, it really, really doesn't matter. It's when you're wearing something and you're making it needs to be fit for purpose. So if you're making a cushion or you're making a hat or you're making a bag, you do need to make it fully felted, and it needs to be solid so that it doesn't pill and it doesn't wear. But I was very aware when we made that I made my little sample. Do you remember with the let's turn it around that way so you can see it, my sample, and we cut up and we added and we just played around, and I was very aware that I just intuitively picked certain colors, and I actually thought it was very important to actually go back to basics. And I thought, now we've got the 4 weeks, that actually we can take a little bit step back and sort of slow down a little bit, especially me talking, because as you know, I talk fast. So everything's going to slow down slightly, so that I'm going to teach you a little bit about the color, and maybe it might inform some of your work that we're going to be doing later on. Does that make sense? So if you've got any questions as we're going on now, just shout them out. I can't see you because I say my screen seems to be going round and round on my iPad. So what we're going to do is, I've got here my color wheel, and I have just made this. Which way round do we want to go? Does it go that way or that way? Let's have a look. Let's just, can you see, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
There we are. Right. So all I've done here is taken a little bit of every color that I had, and hopefully you might still have some left in your pack. And I've looked at the colors, and I don't know whether any of you have done sort of color theory and color wheels before. Have you sort of looked at any of that, any of you?
Yeah.
A little.
A little,
bit,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm not going into very too much detail. It's just sort of to get you thinking a little bit more. What would be a really good idea is for you to actually get some of your wool and actually put it into colors, so that we have cool colors, which are that side, and we have warm colors, which are that side. And it sort of makes a difference how they work together. Does that make sense? So what I want you to do, and have you all got some wool to hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and various colors. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move this out of the way a second, and I'm just going to show you. You'll see why you need a piece of paper in a minute. And I'm just going to show you what I want you to do is get pieces of your wool that are various colors, and you just need to, which way is it there? That's right. Just pull a little, just tease a little bit of the wool out, about that much. That's all you need to do. Maybe a little bit more there. And just twiddle the ends and make yourself, and you can just flatten it down like that and make yourself some little petals. And actually, if you're making flowers, that's how you make the flowers. But just grab as many colors. I've got lots of different colors here, so I'm going to grab another color, and I'm just going to pull. And if we can all do that, that would be really good, because just see what colors you've got. Twiddle the ends. It doesn't have, it can be quite rough and ready. We're not actually laying it out and felting, but it's quite a good thing for you to be sitting and choosing. And don't use black and white. Black and white are the darkest and the lightest hues, and they go with anything. So we're using all the colors that you have, and obviously red, blue, and yellow are the main ones, but I want you to look at the ones and the shades that you might have in between. So I'm going to grab another color. I've got a purple here, so I'm going to grab the purple and maybe one or two just little bits and twiddle them again and make yourself a large flower. You're all going to be doing this?
Going to go and get the carton, don't take it.
Right. So we've got to think about the colours that go together, and you want to have the greens together, maybe the yellows, and think about, I'm just going to do this quickly, the reds going there, so my reds are going there, my yellows are going there, and the blue, so the blue doesn't go there, does it? The greens, does that make sense? Right, like that, and I'm grabbing a blue. If you haven't got a colour, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to want to get you to use some of these in a second. Are we all right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, while you're doing this, it'll take you 5 minutes to grab all your fleeces together, and you want blue, red, yellow, and then you want the colours in between, and see if we can work out the colour wheel. Does that make sense? Do you think, Claire, I should just come out of my iPad and just reset it up again?
Okay, have a try.
Shall I do that?
Yeah.
But the only, I'm just hesitant that I might lose you altogether. It would just be nice to not see myself the whole time. Let's have a look. Do you know where my audio is from? Let's have a look. Join audio later. I'd like you to.
Don't join the audio on the iPad.
No, I am on the audio on the iPad, aren't I? I'm hesitant to come out. How are we all doing? Are we making progress?
Yeah.
Have we got enough colours and shades in between? I'm just twiddling. It can be very rough and ready. Really don't have to spend a lot of time or energy. Just so that you want about, I don't know how many colours you've all got. If you haven't got, I think my colour wheel's got 13 in it, but if you haven't got 13, you've only got that many, that's fine. We're just trying to work out the warm colours and the cool colours. So there's that one. Let's see if I can come in on. How are we doing? How's everyone doing? Are you all right?
Yeah. Okay.
So does that make sense? Having warm one side. So your warm colours are coming down that side, and your cool colours are coming down that side. Let's see if I can find one more colour for me. So I've only got 2, 4, 6, 8 there. It doesn't matter, that's plenty if that's all you've got. I've got a teal here. what we're going to be doing in a minute is taking 3 colours that are either on the cool side or the warm side. And this is intended that when you're coming to do any design work, that you realise why. Because somebody said, I realised that somebody said to me, I don't know whether you saw the pictures from last time, but the blues and the reason why it sort of works. Somebody went, oh, you chose some lovely colours. And it's not about, the way I do it is intuitive because I've just been doing it a long while. But when you're not sure, when you're starting to do a design work, there is a sort of reason behind it. Sometimes you get, I leave people to choose their own colours, and they go, oh, why doesn't mine look, there's something missing. Why doesn't mine look like, not for example somebody else's, but there's something that doesn't zing about the colours, and it's because they haven't quite, with their choices of colours, that clash, and it makes the whole thing not work sometimes. All right, so that's sort of, I'm just trying to get your eye into thinking about it a little bit more, even if you don't quite use it. So I've got to that stage. Is everybody sort of still going?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I want you to do now is maybe while you're fiddling and twiddling your ends, because actually this is quite therapeutic. I don't know about you, I quite like sitting doing these ones. You can choose either a cool set or a warm set. So I chose, and I want to leave my colour wheel there because I like it there. But you can either take the colours off and just take, if you look, you can just take, oh, I'll take those 3 colours and just use them. All right, so I've got 3 colours from my colour wheel that are from the warm colours. So I've got orange, pinky dusky red, and a purple. And what I want you to do, I'm just folding mine up. The reason why I've given you a piece of paper and asked you just to have a piece of white paper, because you might not have a white table like me. So what I want you to do is to actually, just with your hands, we're doing everything dry at the moment. We're not using the soapy water because, as you know, friction can help those scales open out. So we can actually make very, very fine pre-felts and just have a look at the composition. And you can see I've got 3 colours here. My iPad doesn't show me very clearly. I hope you can see a bit clearer. But we've got the orange, the rusty colour, and the purple. And all I'm going to do is just, I want to make 4 piles in the end with these 3 colours. So what I want to do is just to pull off fibres, and it doesn't matter which way you're going, how you're doing it. I'm just very gently just going to lay down a few fibres, just flatten them so they don't blow away. I'm just going to put a few here, and I'm going to, you might want to put your piece of paper and make it a bit wider so you can see what you're doing, and get another piece of paper just like that. That's why I sort of said 2 pieces, and just tease some of the fibres in different directions. And I want you to have a look. Sheila said she was having a look at how and playing with how the fibres worked and how the colours react. But just lay the fibres out, and thick, thin, in just little piles, just flattening them with your hands so that they don't blow away if you've got a window open or something, and just very, very lightly. And we're talking, you know, milligrams, a few threads. You can see with the white at the background, you can see every fibre, you can see the gap, you can see where you've overlaid. Let's have a look there, where you've overlaid here and put 2 layers across in different directions, and you can actually see the fibres behind, so it's darker. You've got two slight orange pieces there, so it's starting to build up, and you've got the lovely lines. So we're just looking at the lines and the composition of just putting fibres together. So I'm just going to make piles and not worry about laying out, not worrying about how thick it is, how thin it is, but I'm just looking at little patterns and looking at ideas. You can go diagonally across. You don't have to go by rules of laying it out neatly. You don't have to go by rows and laying it out side by side. This piece here has got a little bit of, it's all sort of caught around in a bit of a circle. I'm just going to put a bit more orange on that one. And can you see, I've just used it all up and I've made myself 4 little piles. I'm just going to flatten them each, just slightly. And by flattening them, I'm putting my hands on the top and I'm very, very gently just shaking my hands. And what you can do is you can actually lift up. It's gossamer thin and very open weave. And if you can hold it up to the light, you can see that it's very, very delicate. Okay. And the idea is I'm going to just flatten these ones. And I'm just giving them a little bit of a rub. And you can see that they all look slightly different. And actually, I think, oh, I don't like that one. So what I'm just going to do is just pull that apart and just put that on top of each other. So I've just made myself 4 little piles. Now, these are all complementary colours. No, they're not complementary colours. They're all colours on the warm side of the colour wheel. And now what we want to do is look at a complementary colour, of one of the other side, one of another colour. So on the wheel, when I go back to my wheel here, my original wheel that was sat on the table. Now, these are the colours that I was using, these 3 actually here. And a complementary colour is a colour on the opposite side. So I'm going to choose one of the other colours to contrast on the opposite side. So I'm going to use a colour from the opposite side to add to it, to give it a little bit of contrast. All right. So I'm going to just put that back. That's still underneath. And what colour am I going to choose? Where are we? So the pinks and the blues. I'm going to choose the green. And I'm going to grab a little bit of green and add a contrast. And I'm only going to take something like a little bit like that. A little bit across here. I might take a tiny, tiny bit and just sort of twist it a little bit and add it across there. And I might take a bit more and make it darker. So you could add a few hues. Let's just move that across so you can see it better. So I've added a complementary colour to my warm colours. And again, I'm just doing a little bit of hand rubbing. And that's all you need to do. You lift up one, and actually you can just sit here and make beautiful little piles of colours and lines, etc. Now, I'm just going to just say hand rub these a little bit, put them back down. So we've actually gone from very, the other week, to very much thicker pre-felts. To these are all pre-felts. They are all half-made bits of felt, even though they're just barely holding together. Look, you can see that is holding together almost. That's because those scales are already holding on to them. And you can see how thin that you can go if you want to. So, you know, your art pictures, your work can be as thin as this, and we can start to felt down these if you want to. But the idea is, again, that you're not afraid to just mix and match, but it's a little bit about the background of to why that hint of green works with those colors because it's on the opposite side of the color wheel. So we take this one, for example, and I'm just going to hand rub it again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move these out of the way. But can you see why you've got a white background? It helps to see what you've got and where you've got. And I can just pick all these up and put them to one side. They're just on the side here. Now I'm going to concentrate with this one, and I'm going to get my scissors, and even still dry. And you can just sit here. The nice thing is you can make all these just sort of sat, I don't know, sat watching the TV or something like that. You don't have to have, you know, you can sit and just make lots of these little ones, and they can be a lot thicker. So I'm just going to cut. And now for those that have been with me before, you know, I don't tend to cut my fibers. I hate cutting the wool, but I actually, when I'm doing things like this, I actually cut, because look, you can see you have a lovely straight line there. And then this starts the color blending. It starts the building up of layers, and actually that's what gives you depth when you come to doing pictures, by having, rather than just laying some orange and some purple out, you've got lots of things going on, you've got lots of depth. And as you know, these fibers, they migrate through. When I'm explaining to people, obviously when they're first learning, people think maybe it's the dye that disappears. It's actually that migrates through and alters the color and the composition. But it's actually the fibers. The fibers they wiggle through. So those shorter ends that you've got here that are cut, the more shorter ends you've got, the more they can wiggle through the work that's going on, and the more that they'll bed down. So actually that has a lot to play with it, and you'll find that the more you cut those ends, the more they'll disappear in, which is another interesting fact. So it's about not being afraid and not being afraid to play. And can you see? So I've cut that again there, and I've got so you can cut through, and then you can start building up your layers again. And again, like I said, with you've got the green at the background, you can start by looking on the opposite side and the colors that are complementary. So you've got the warm colors that you've just been working with, and then I'm going to add a color behind, and I'm going to stick to the green to sort of build up. So I'm going to add a green, and I'm going to move these just to one side so that they're here, and I'm just going to make a bit of a background to add. I'm just pulling out little bits of fleece, and we're talking again minuscule bits of fleece, and I'm just going to add these back onto here. Random, I might cut this one again, but can you see we're doing sort of what we did before, but we're actually this time we're going very, very fine and very thin. And I don't like that. Let's have a look at that. And you can get, because you've cut that green line up, and it moves your eye around. Does that make sense? So rather than having something, let's just have a look, rather than having something that's one straight line, actually, which one's better? Rather than having one straight line of green going along here, you've cut the green up. So the idea is with a picture is to keep your eye interested and your eye moving. And by cutting and moving your positioning, you're getting your eye here. You're getting your eye to go, my eye is following around from the green and looking around, and actually this purple bit here is going off the page, and I'm thinking, oh, I like that, because it feels like it's doing something. It feels like it wants to go up and come back down. So I think actually I like that purple bit there. So what I will do is grab a little bit more purple, because that's the purple that we've been using, and I'm going, okay, I quite like that bit of purple. I think that purple needs to have another bit more line, and I actually want to cover that purple bit and actually put a little bit, maybe put a little bit there to contrast So there's a tension between I've got a little bobbly bit of purple there with a line coming up, and that was just purely in the roving. It was just a lumpy bit, and I like the tension between the block now of purple and the line of purple. So can you see I'm sort of just looking at it and not worrying, and I quite like that. And I'm thinking, actually, do you know, I quite like that bit. I like the purple going off here. I like the purple coming off down here. Okay, what I might do is just, you can lift it again because you've just dry felted it. So I've just shaken my hands tight a little bit. I've lifted that up. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm not sure that you can see, but my pale green fibers that were behind, that I'm just almost using them as it's not a glue because it isn't a glue, but just to hold everything together. So as a background. So I'm going back to that pale bright lime green, which again is a complementary on the opposite side of the color wheel, and I'm just going to build up just to make it a bit thicker now. So I quite liked that, and it was about, it's similar to what I was saying to Sheila about going behind and adding more. If it's still a very, very fine pre-felt, you can add from behind. So my design is face down, and I can just add a bit more of that lime green. And can you see I'm flattening it again and almost dry felting it? Now, if you wanted to, you could make this reversible. So I could add back, here we are, I could add back one of my pieces. And that was one of my four little play bits, and that's on the back. So maybe I quite like that. Maybe I won't be using it from the back, but actually even that green line might have an influence when I turn it back over, because I can see it coming through. Does that make sense? You could just build up this layer and you could have lots of fun without even getting any soap out, any water out, and just have fun playing and cutting and seeing where pieces are going. And you can get to this stage and you could say, okay, actually I quite like that. I like the boldness of the purple and the line here, but actually should I just cut it up again? So I haven't decided. I tend to go for straight lines, but you could go for circles, and I'm just going to go straight through the wall again, and I've got a gap there. And sometimes by cutting things up, you find that actually you prefer it. Does that make sense? The other thing that you can do is to get one of your pieces of paper and to just cut yourself a little window. That's the other thing. So you can cut yourself, I'm just going to put this back together, so pretend I haven't cut that. So you cut yourself an L shape piece of card or paper, doesn't matter, and I'm just going to use the other piece of paper. I have cardboard ones that I cut out of the cereal packet. So you can have little, you see it frames it. So all I do is 2 L shapes, cut out of a piece of paper, and you can frame little bits and go, oh, I really like that bit, or oh gosh, I like that bit. Okay, and you can say, I actually really, really like that bit. Now you've got to remember that if you're going to felt this down a little bit, that actually things will happen. Magic happens, doesn't it? Alchemy happens. And even though I know what's going to happen, I think I might know what's going to happen, I still don't. Even after all these years, I still don't, and I'm still surprised. And a lot of it has to happen is to do with one, like I just said, you've cut some of those edges. Some of those ends have been cut. That's why I don't like when we're making big things and we're doing big pictures, I don't like cutting the wool, because it does alter the whole structure of the fiber. It has something that it goes wiggly, it doesn't like. But here I don't mind that, because that's the alchemy of it. The other thing is, even with all this fleece, and this merino fleece is all the same, it should be the same micron, it should be the same diameter. It's come from different sheep. Some of the staple lengths are different. So every bit of roving, every piece of roving that you have does react slightly differently, completely differently. So that's why it's always worth doing when you're making something that's a big project, making something that's doing samples. That's why that grid is really good, because you can actually see that that piece of green actually doesn't shrink as much as that bit of purple. So does that make sense? And also your technique of felting things down, that will make a difference as well. Some people are very light with their felting method. Some people are very heavy-handed. And so that has an effect. Also, I tend to do a lot of rubbing with my hands when I'm starting the felting rather than rolling. And actually what happens there is when you're rubbing on the top, the fibers from underneath come up towards your hands. So the colors that are underneath, under the bottom, they will be migrating towards your hands. So if you do a lot of rubbing, then the color underneath is coming up towards your hands. So if you don't want the color from underneath to come up too much and interfere, not interfere, but mix with what's on top, I actually turn my piece over. So I actually turn my piece over and I work from the underneath. And by working from the underneath, the fibers that were on the top are coming up towards your hands and they're coming down to the bottom. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The silence there.
Yeah.
The silence, because I can't see anybody and I can only see myself, which is horrible. Even though I've had a haircut. And so you've got lots of things in the mix here, you see. So the exciting thing is actually to take a step back from having to be prescriptive and having to lay out layers that are, you know, so many grams to the square inch or whatever, or and the thing is to just have a play and cut it up and have a look and grab that little bit and go, oh, I like that little bit. Does that make sense? And the other thing to do is to get to this now, say that one, if I put it back together again, and to actually felt that one down and to felt, so that's my thicker one. I've got two thin ones left because I reused one of them, and actually felt those down a little bit. All right. So that's what I want you to do, is to have a play with the three colors that you chose from the cool or from the warm side. I want you just to tease them out and to pull out the fibers and just to lay them on and not be worried. Doesn't matter about the direction, doesn't matter about the thickness, but you don't need much. You only need a little bit from those color wheels, and then add a color that's complementary, so an opposite color that has that sort of either a zing, or here the green slightly darker, and then maybe chop them up, and then maybe cut yourself a little piece of card and have a look at some of the things that you like. Maybe have a look that you want to. I'll tell you what you could do. You could say, okay, Sarah gave me all those bits of silk. I quite like that, but I just want to add, what have I got in my bag? Some of that viscose, some of the other silks. I'm just going to add a little bit of silk over the top. Oh, I've got some purple. See, the purple will go nicely. So I'm going to add another purple bit of silk. Now, remember, the silk doesn't have any barbs on it, any scales. So it's imperative that the wool fibers grab hold of them and pull them into the work. But as you know, the effect is fun, and you get a nice A, a sheen, and B, you also get they start wiggling. So I'm just going to put that bit on there, flatten it down. You could put some threads on. I thought I had a few threads here, but I don't. So that piece has got a bit of silk on it. And oh, look, there's some silk waste in here. I might put those on there, a few threads. Now what I'm going to do now is to felt these just a little. All right, I'm going to wet them down. I'm going to add a little bit of soapy water, and I'm just going to give them a gentle rub, and then I'm going to give them a little roll side by side, just so it's holding on a little bit more than that. And then I'm going to maybe chop them up again. Okay, so that's what I would like you all to have a play with. Are you all sat there just pulling your and making little piles?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Have you made 4 piles yet?
Yes.
Wow.
Brilliant. Okay, and then if you, Claire and I are just going to go off screen and see if I can get my iPad. I'm just going to close it down and reboot it again. Okay, it's just on jam. It just says waiting. And if you get past that stage and you've laid out and you've chopped and you changed and you've had a little look, just put them onto your bubble wrap and then sprinkle only a little bit of water on. Put your piece of plastic on the top. Give a little bit of rubbing, and then you can just do a little bit of rolling from side to side. All right, just gentle rolling, nothing much, just a little bit, and then we'll convene in 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. I'll come back in as soon as I can, and we'll have a look and we'll see what you've done, and we might play and chop up again. All right, you're all just having a little bit of fun and a little play, moving some of the fibers around, are you?
Yeah. Yes.
Any questions?
No, not at the moment.
No. Okay. I'm just going to wet down. If you want to watch how much water, if you want to watch actually what I'm doing, do you know I haven't got any plastic, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to use my netting because I have left my plastic in the studio, and I'm going to just wet down just with a little bit of water. So whether you want to watch this or carry on, doesn't matter too much. Just wet down a little bit of water. You could always, like me, if you haven't got any plastic to hand, because I would say I've left it behind, you could always just use another piece of bubble wrap, and that's what I'll do. Or you could use your netting, whichever you prefer. You use, there's no right or wrong way here. Some people just prefer to use the bubble wrap, some like the netting. My problem with the netting is that the fibers sometimes get, if you rub too hard on the top, the fibers get too entangled in those holes, and also it's a little bit sore on your hands, but that's why you can use the glove or a plastic bag. So I'm just using another bit of bubble wrap. I'm just spreading my hands to flatten that out. The only thing with using this bit of bubble wrap on the top is that I can't see how much water I've put on. So I can just give my hands a little bit of a rub on the top here like this, just to, so my hands slide on the top and they don't stick. So I'm just flattening it down. And actually, these are very, very fine pre-felts. So they're very thin. You could actually, you don't need to do much rubbing if you don't want to. Because I say I haven't got the plastic, I'm just going to roll this up now. And very gently, just do about 20 rolls in this direction, and I'll do about 20. I'll keep turning. There's a little bit of water on there, and because I didn't check how much, it doesn't matter too much. There's no, the one thing you don't want to do is have too much water, because those fibers will swim past each other. What you want to do is start the agitation process so that there's enough water and enough soap just to start opening up those scales, and so that they can catch on the way past each other. So therefore, you don't want to be aggressive with your rolling. You want to be very gentle. This is a nice bit that you can just stop and start and just do little bits like this. And if it comes undone, your roll, like mine's just done, just use a towel or your blue non-slip mat. The only thing with the double bubble wrap is it's making a lot of more noise than it would normally. So I'm not counting, I'm just having a look. Look, one's just folded. If you've got 2 pieces of bubble wrap, you'll find that you end up, one unrolls itself. And look, you can even see when they're wet, you can sort of see, you can see the change, you can see the colors coming up through. So I actually like to stop sometimes. And you can see, I don't know whether you can see, there's a ridge on this one, just where it came a bit unfolded, but that's nice because you can tell which way you've rolled. Sometimes, like now, if I'm talking and I'm not concentrating properly, I can't remember which way I rolled, and you're thinking, okay, but I know I've rolled that way because the ridge is going that way. That's the way I've rolled it. So I know to turn it around this way now. And actually, I'm going to ditch that other piece of bubble wrap because you can just spread those out. And the nice thing is here, you can just look at something and go, oh, I don't like that bit, or I want to fold that bit in. I'm not worrying about any bits hanging off because they're going to be my interest bits. I'm not worried that actually I can see that those top two pieces of actually, they're starting to mat together with the bottom two. That doesn't matter. I'm just going to roll it up and do the same thing again. And that's what I meant. That's what not to do. The roll has come unrolled. Just because I'm not concentrating, and it's come on the. You'll find that the pre-felts have come on the outside of the bubble wrap because of the way I rolled it. It's very hard to explain until you do it, and you think, how did it end up on the outside when just now it was on the bubble side? But that's the magic of it. So I haven't even done 4 rolls yet, but actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take them and I'm just going to cut, because some of those fibers are already joining themselves. I'm just going to cut them, and I'm just going to get a towel that's behind me. And I'm just going to lay them on my towel. Now, dare I suggest it, you could actually just wring them out very gently, it really depends on how far you've gone with them. But look, how many rolls did I do? I didn't even do 4 sides, but I have a piece here, and we'll come back into the picture in a second. I have a piece here, and that was one of the first pieces, and that's holding together. I'm grabbing the other piece like that, and that's quite wet. You can see it's quite dark, if you can see on the screen. So I'm just going to squeeze that out a little bit. You could just leave it on the towel to dry out. And then I've got my third piece, which was my double piece, and I'll put my towel there, and I've got my 2 pieces there, which actually, now that they've started to be felted, I actually don't like them as much. So I'm thinking, oh, what went wrong there? But that's because I'm just going to cut them, and they haven't had that final addition of that other color and the mixing. So these 2 here are the ones that had, that's the way round. There we are. They're the ones that had the background added. These were the 2 original ones, and they haven't got that added interest of the background and the color that is complementary, that sets those colors off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to say, okay, right, now what I do is I take these, including the threads, and I'm going to cut them up, and I'm going to play around with them. I'm probably going to leave this one at the moment. I've got 2 there, haven't I? So what I might do is I'm going to cut that one, and I'm going to add, I think I might turn that one over. I like that bit better. Oh, which side do I like best? So I'm going to add and cut and just lay over the top. These are all very soft. They're all very fluffy. They almost pull apart. They do pull apart. I'm going to add more layers. And then I'm thinking, actually, I'm going to put them all together. That's what I'm now thinking. So I'm just going to get a piece of white paper so that you can actually see a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move, and it's all very forgiving. So I'm just putting it on the paper just to show you how I'm just sort of building up my pieces. And then I'm thinking, I need something to join this to make it more cohesive. So I'm going back to some of those original pieces. This is just about playing and about adding. And then I'm thinking, okay, I need a little bit more. You've got the lines there. And you've got to remember, you don't need to have, it doesn't have to be square. It doesn't have to be any shape. There's no constrictions here, because you could actually stop there and say, well, I don't want to felt it anymore. I want a picture that I'm going to back onto some card, and I just love the threads and the fragility of it. So there's no reason why you have to felt it down fully. We're not, I say, we're not making a utilitarian bag or a hat. We're not making anything that's going to be used. And can you see, look, just from those two colors, look at the depth that you've got now by just doing that. Now that's my top side, because I'm just sort of looking at that. I'm going to actually, because I quite like making uniform things, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to turn it over again so that my design here is face down, and I'm going to add some fibers sort of to link them and to make it a little bit thicker and to make it more of a fabric. So I'm actually going to put these face down onto my bubble wrap. And by doing that, I have my bubbles. So then my bubbles are face down onto the piece of work. Just flatten it a bit. And then turn it over. Whoops, I think I lost one. Yep. But you know, that doesn't matter. This is the nice thing, that it doesn't matter. This is the nice thing. It's sort of, you've got to learn to free up and to not worry. Now, actually, I still quite like that line there. And the reason I like that line is because it's taking my eye off up to here. So do you know, I actually prefer this side to the other side. So I'm thinking, okay, how do I get around that? I'm going to make this double-sided. That's what I've decided. So you can see what the potential is by making this the front side. And I like that line, I say, because it takes my eye. And that's what's a good thing to do when you're looking. When I might show you the pictures that are on my wall behind me in a minute, because and the reasons why they work and the reasons why something doesn't work. I'm going to add, I like those lines. I like that. It's dark green, it's not black, if you can see that. So I'm going to add another bit of green there to mimic it. All right, so that little line is talking to the other line, so to speak. And I always do things in odd numbers. So if you're an even person, stick it to, but I'm an odd person, so very odd. So I want 3 pieces. And can you see, by having 3 pieces going off from one end to the other, you're actually, your eye, even if you can see it not very well, is actually taken from one end of the picture to the other. I'm going to make that a bit thicker, that one there, and I'm going to have a bit of a painterly effect there, and I might add a little bit more here, just down there. So it's sort of starting dark green and going up to the top there. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got this bit that's loose over this side. So what am I going to do there? I'm going to ditch that piece because I don't think that's part of it. I might put that piece, oh, it's got a little bit of green on it. It's got a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of green. So I'm going to put that on top of there, because can you see, you can just see I've got a tiny bit of green going off, and it's giving the picture energy by having that, if you know what I mean. So I've got a lot of purple over here. I just think I want something over here just to, and that there's a little bit of purple here, but I might just add a bit more purple just to balance the two out. So these are sort of concepts and ideas that you need to think about when you're putting your pieces together. A lot of the time it doesn't matter, and a lot of time you just go with the flow. But if you're unsure, then think about balance. Another thing is to get, again, get your little squares. And there's no reason why, for example, if you just like that piece there, that you couldn't cut that piece and forget the rest of the piece and join it all back up again. So you could look at the areas that you like. Whoops, that's come off here. So I'm now thinking, oh, I've said that I'm making this double-sided, haven't I? So I'm going to add a little bit of one of my chosen warm colours. I've got the purple, I've got the orangey colour, and I'm just going to add some very, very fine fibres. I'm not sure you can see here, but there's fine fibres from the original bit here. I'm just going to add a few just to, they'll disappear in. Just a few, just to cut the piece down a little bit when it is felted. So I'm adding a few across here. Now that looks quite a lot of orange, but it's not. I'm going to add a little bit more of those. These are a bit, they're silk fibres, but they're very long and they don't go in very easily. So be warned, I don't think you've got any of those. I'm just going to add those for a little bit of decoration. Maybe add one more here. And I'm going to do exactly the same as I just did. I'm going to wet it down again. This time you don't need as much water because you've already got water in there. I know we took it out, but you don't need as much water. So already that's disappearing in. And this time I might just get my netting because I actually want to see what I'm doing. So the other alternative, I'm getting my netting, flattening my hands. I like to have a little bit of soap on my hands. So I'm just rubbing my hands with the soap. And now this is where you can use the glove that you've got in your kit. I tend to exfoliate my hands. Some people don't like the feeling of this. So a glove or a plastic bag is quite useful. But again, you can see I'm just gently trying to get all the water to work in. Now you might want to carry on just doing quite a bit of rubbing rather than rolling, because rolling does actually, as you saw just now, it does actually disturb the fibres that way. And I just want to make sure we're not shrinking any of this. I just want to make sure that all the fibres go in okay. Now the thing with the netting is that when you take it off, you have to be very careful because it'll come with the netting. So what you do, you put your hand and you just peel, and you should be able to just peel very gently once you've got the edges. There we are, you can peel, but already I can see that the fibres are trying to come through the netting. They want to do what we call Nuno felting. So you can see, can you see, I actually quite like work when it's wet because you can see what's going on a lot. And you can see there's quite a little bit more soap on there that I've got on there now. And I quite like that. And if I was to turn that over, and I can do that with my other piece of bubble wrap, that's my side that I actually liked. And I like the interest of the green. It's completely changing now, isn't it? Because I'm using the green. If I put my other piece of bubble wrap on, I can flip it over. Make sure you hold all 3 layers, otherwise you'll lose some of it. You turn it over. And again, just gently peel off anything that's sticking. You can see the other side. Well, to me now, the other side looks a bit of a mess because it's sort of, it's fine. It's a nice pre-felt, but it hasn't got any direction. It hasn't got any interest as much. I quite like the lines going across, but it's not taking your eye around. If it was to be a finished piece, you could just keep building this up and have lots of interesting pre-felts now. So you could actually build a big piece and make a big piece of pre-felt, let it dry, and use that as your pre-felts. And you could add more fibers. You don't have to be thin like I am. So I'm going back to the other side because that was the side, and you can see how forgiving you can be. That's the side that I actually quite like the lines on. So you can do a little bit more rubbing, or you can do a little bit more gentle rolling. And again, just gently, you don't need to do too much. It's just about the agitation. Right, while I'm doing this, can we have a gallery view, Claire? How's everybody doing?
Fine.
Silence.
Yeah.
Are we all right? Are we watching?
Yeah.
Are we watching, or are we
Both.
A bit of both.
Good. Good. Have we got any problems? Have we got any questions?
No, just
No.
enjoying mixing the colours.
Yeah. I don't think mine's got any sort of direction to it. It looks a bit of a mishmash, but
Okay.
I quite like
So,
it because it's nice colour.
Exactly. So, but can you see how you can get a better depth by having lots of, as you put it, mismatch of colours, but actually you get a better depth, and it's quite fun and quite freeing just to spend a while just building up. You could make lots of these, but can you see why the colours work together? They should, especially when they're dry, because of using a group of complementary of warm colours and then having a complementary colour as well opposite it. You should find, because sometimes I've had people that have used colours and they go, oh, I don't like the outcome. The colours at the start look okay, but when you come to felt them, they've all sort of, because they're not of the same warm colours or the cool colours, they sort of juxtaposition. They don't seem to gel together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's so that should help you, inform you as to maybe just thinking a little bit more. But the more you can do this, and the more it's actually quite. I actually enjoy just spending time, so not having to think about it. Having to play and is quite an important part, because actually you discover things. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes if like you said, Nikki, it's a bit mishmash, we'll leave it, come back to it, let it dry out, and actually you'll if you get your little paper squares and look through the window, you'll go, oh, I like that little bit, oh, I like that bit. And if you don't like that bit, we'll chop it up and add some more.
Yeah.
So the idea is that I've lost a piece. You see, that's the nice thing. You can lose a bit and add it back. So I'm hoping that today that you will, let's have a look. That's that side. It's the other side that we like, the better one of. I'm hoping that today's sort of lesson, it will get you thinking about the colour rather than just doing. It will get you cutting and adding a bit like we did with the pre-felts, but more painterly and more not worrying, and just having a look in depth at your design. Let's have a look. Have you got anything you can hold up to the screen and show us? Any little gems that you like?
Should we go to Nicola first? Nikki, do you want to show us?
Well, I wouldn't call it a little gem.
Oh,
but I like the colours. That's
I love the
side,
yes.
And that's the other side.
Oh, I love that bit in the middle. See, I can't touch the screen, can I? I love those bits in the middle. And you'll find sometimes when it's wet that it's a bit murky, but when it dries,
well, that's what I'm hoping. You get the bright
when it dries that you'll but you know what you could do, you could cut that into 3 again. I love triptychs. So you could cut it into 3 again and put it on a background. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I've done. Oh, it's not the one behind me. Claire, can you just spotlight me again? Yeah, can you see the picture behind?
Yeah.
Yes. So what I've done here, I know it's got fabric in it, but these were based on, I take ideas out of either the landscape, or I was looking at a lot at cells, and these were mitochondria. So I made a pre-felt that was these long lines here. I cut them up and then I put them onto a background. So for example, Nikki, you could cut your pieces up into long strips. You could put them onto a background. And I've actually, the pieces, the reason why I added those pieces across, they're bits of silk chiffon, and we'll come into that in the week 3. But the reason I added that is to join them together, because they look, if you look at it, they look as though they're going off the frame right up into the sky. To me, they look like they've got energy, they look like they've got movement. And the whole idea that I put the fabric across is to sort of link them and join them. So they're not floating on their own, they're actually joined together, they're actually talking to each other.
Yeah.
If you're going to
So if I cut this one up into, several, you
yeah,
put it on another background, are you saying put it on, make another plain piece of something, or a mixed piece?
Yeah,
just
exactly. So
again, and with another,
yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be thick, not like we did last week, the last month. It doesn't, like this one, this is very thick. It doesn't have to be. They're both very thick. These were incredibly thick pieces. It doesn't have to be thick. It can be as thin as you've just done it. All right. And then if you want to, another one, if I just go that way over there, you can't see because the light's coming through. But again, those are cells, and what's happened here is right from the bottom up to the top. They're leaving the piece. They're going out again. Their movement, and that gets your eye looking. It's not quite as good. I'm just going to get you just to show you example of what went wrong once, and it's just in the next room. And why it doesn't work as a picture. I'll show you. So I made a rug. And they came out of drawings from cells again, but there's a reason. Claire, if you want to, I'll put it up this way. Okay, so it's a rug. Now, I thought I was doing well, and there's something wrong about it. Okay, this is quite a thick rug, it's a floor rug. And there's something wrong about it. It's because, and I know what it's wrong, is I tried to link them with that big piece in the middle, the orange piece in the middle, but that didn't work. What I should have done is that piece that's on the top right here, where my fingers are flapping, should have gone off and not had the border, and that would have given an awful lot of movement into the piece, and it would have, your eye would have gone off, and you'd have been following it. It gives an interest. All right, so that's what I'm thinking about when you think about things like that. When you're putting composition together, think about how it works for your eye. Your eye is leading, even if it's not it doesn't have to be a landscape, if I do, as you can see, abstract, but you still need something for your eye to have an interest, even if it's a focal point. So coming back to Claire, if you can spotlight my work. I'm just going to put it onto the towel to dry it out, so just so you can see the color a little bit more. That's my nice side, isn't it? So what I would do, you could also, I'm just drying out, there you can see a bit of more of the colour now when you take out the moisture, the water. I like that green going up there. I think it just sort of, can you see what I mean by your eyes just following it? But sometimes what you might want to do is do something that's completely alien and have something, for example, a pre-felt that might be, this is when it's a pre-felt that's a solid color or something that you might want to have. Does that make sense? Something that's got something that's bold, that adds a little bit of something oomph to it, so that you've got that little dot there, and maybe Hello.
I've lost the sound.
Yes, I have
No,
too.
I'm back again. I'm
Oh.
very sorry. That must have been my internet. I disappeared. Are you all there again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry, my internet went for a little coffee break. So did you all see the little bit of mustard color, the yellow that I
Yeah.
added here? And that, see, the signal wasn't very good. So what I was saying was that you can add a little bit of something that just adds that little bit of interest to have your eye, a bright color, something that you wouldn't think goes. You can't see in here, but there's yellow threads all coming up through here. So that's why I decided to use the yellow, just to pick up the movement of those threads. And I don't think I would do a circle. I think I would have maybe make a little bit of mustard pre-felt and then add something, or maybe some fibers that were going up here alongside the green, just to add that movement. Does that make a sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want you to do is to keep playing and keep adding. So if you decided that, for example, that's a very nice pre-felt, but it's not me, I don't really want that bit, you can still go again. So we can get to here and we can go chop, 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 just like Vicky said, we can have lots of long pieces. Now these are all getting thicker by the minute, aren't they? Because we've added lots more, but that's great. So you've got that, and you might want to just add them, not straight, but let's just put them like that. What's quite nice, there's no rules. Make up your own rules. Does that make sense? So find your own way. What about doing that? I'm just thinking off the top of my head. And the nice thing is that you could just have lots of use up all your odd ends, all the bits, all the manky bits if you've got any. Just make yourself lots of pre-felts and have lots of pieces, so that when you do come to want to make something, I tend to make when I haven't got any inspiration, and when I'm bored, I make pre-felts in a series of colors, so that I've got pre-felts that I can just turn my hand to. I've got some red ones, I've got some blue ones, I've got some yellow ones, and then I can go, oh, I want a bit of yellow pre-felt I can use. You could do that. You could make a checkered piece like that. I'll put them back together again and butt them up, and then felt that down again and move them around. So if I had that, I would do exactly the same like this and start weaving it in and out. It's all right, I've only just come up with that idea of doing that, but I quite like the idea. You get lots and lots of little squares now. And I never waste any of the bits that are left. So I'm running out of strips now. So all I've got left is some little manky bits here. Well, I never throw those away. I will put those back into something else, and I just keep adding and adding. I've run out here of any more, so let's put that little one there. And what I'm going to do now is just add a tiny little bit more water. And I'm going to felt that down again. So I'm going to be careful because they've all got lots of cut edges and there's movement. So I'm just going to put either my plastic or my netting back on the top. Let's add a little bit more soap just to, I want to be quite gentle, and I want to just quite join those together. So I don't want to be too rough. I'm just going to move that onto here. How are we all doing? Have you cut yours up, Nikki?
Sorry?
Have you cut yours back up again?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me? Yes, I've got it in lots of strips.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
So I'm
Have a
just
look at Nikki. Look at
I don't, oh, hang on. I'm a bit worried that it's all going to fall apart. I'm just sticking
all right.
it. No, just a moment.
Don't worry if it's if it's a fragile moment, then don't worry. Are we all right, Sheila?
Yes, we're fine.
Good.
I find it's making me use colours that I perhaps wouldn't have done. So I'm not a yellow or orange person, but I'm using those colours now and quite liking them.
Exactly. Sometimes you've got to go out of your comfort zone. And when I'm doing teaching in real life, what I do is make people use colours that they don't want and swap and chop and change. So I think we did that with you, Claire, didn't we? Everybody made a piece of pre-felt, and then I made everybody take a piece from everybody else. So I didn't say what colour you had to use. And sometimes we had lots of pinks or we had lots of greens, but you all took a piece of everybody else's and had to use a picture. And actually, we all use the same. I use blues or I use pinks when I'm doing my work if I want to. But, it's good to use a colour that you maybe you don't think you like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it tends to be colours that we wear, doesn't it? Unfortunately. So I'm now putting all mine back together again it was just something I thought of. It sometimes works quite nicely, sometimes doesn't. But it is another concept and another idea. So I've done a little bit of rubbing. I'm going to go back to the rolling. What I want you to do for next week, I need you to do some preparatory work. What I want we're going to look at is looking at design using an outline. So I want you to find and draw so that you've got it as reference, something. It could be abstract or it could be a picture, but basically what I want we were going to be doing, and I might show you with a pen, is something that's very simplistic, so that we will be painting with a black outline with the fibers. We'll be drawing the outline and then we're going to be infilling with colors. Does that make sense? And doing a background. So we're actually going to be doing a picture, and it can be geometric, it can be shapes, it can be wiggles, but I want you to come up with probably sort of an A4 size or A3, nothing bigger than A3, definitely, a design that you have drawn with, and I would suggest that you use a black felt tip or a marker pen to draw a simplistic line of something, be it just leaves of flowers or something. If I just get a marker pen, I'll show you what I mean. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what you have to have that ready with your black wool and some colours as well. So I'm just going to go and get a marker pen and I'll show you what I mean. So if you look at the table, so basically draw yourself, and I say you can be abstract or you could be literal, and I've got no idea. I'm just looking at a cushion on my sofa here, and I'm just going to be drawing I don't know what it is or was. It's a flower it's a seed head of something. Oh, whoops, ignore my drawing for a minute, please. There we are. And then it's got a leaf coming over from the top of it. You don't want it to be too complex, but I'm looking for something that is sort of like that. The simplistic and the more basic the design, the easier it will be for you. All right. So what we will be doing is using the black wool to actually mimic the black lines on your paper. So you don't want anything complex, basically, you can just do leaf shapes if you want to, like that, or you can just do swirls and circles. It can be just as simple as that. All right. So you can just have a free for all and just make it up if you want as you go. But you might want to come and some funny seed head like I've just done there, and have a thought to your head. You know, we can make the edge one color, and what we'll be doing is we'll be laying the outline with the black, we'll be infilling with color, and then we'll be putting a background on the whole lot and sort of working upside down. All right, so it's another different type of designing pictures, etc., completely different away from cutting and adding and using pre-fills. All right, so that's next week's challenge. In the meantime, I think you should just have fun and just say, look at the color wheel where you use warm colors and you use cool colors together, and then use a color that's complementary on the opposite side. Also, the other thing to use is analogous colors are the ones that are next. They work well as well. So choose a color that complements it and works well as well. So I'm just doing a little bit of, it looks fast on the iPad, but it's actually, you need to go quite slowly. And let's have a look. So we're not worrying about making fully felted pieces here. Remember, again, it's about just making sure that they're holding together a little bit. The other thing that you might like to think about, I don't know whether any of you stitch, but you might like to add at this stage, you could add, can you see there? I'm just drawing it out a little bit. You could add stitch. So you could add some stitches into here, and then you could carry on felting. So you can add some stitches at any stage, and they could be basic running stitch. You could do, basic running stitch, feather stitches, all sorts of anything that you fancy. And when you felt and cut and add, it has quite an interest. I would use something that's maybe a cotton or a wool thread or something like that, so that it felts in as well, because that's quite nice, because it has quite a nice effect. Let's have a look. Right, let's go back to on the table there. Well, actually, I preferred it before I cut it up that last time, but you can you can see. I think it looks nicer actually in real life than it does on the screen. So I'm going to cut. I've got lots of little squares, and I'm actually sat here looking now, and it's lovely because in my little squares, I've got little bits of yellow, that yellow silk thread that was in there has been chopped up, and each little square, and my squares are about 2 centimeters. They've each got a little picture in them, so it's like a big picture. It's quite, I quite like that. You could make a, oh, I'd quite like to turn it over the other side and look. And if you want to, you could cut it so it was square again. And I've got a square there that's got all sorts of interest in it that you could use in something else on its own. And I think I would probably now just wait till that's dry, and I might add some stitches to that, just some little small, and I might add either a mustard color, I think, because I like that yellow. I would add a running stitch. Maybe I'll have a play with it in a minute later, and add I can see if I can find some yellow thread or some yellow wool and add a running stitch around it to complement all the little threads. But I'm actually sat here, and I say you can't quite, it's too difficult to see for you, but I'm looking at, no, isn't that funny why it won't, maybe it's not focusing. All the individual squares have all got lots of little pictures in them. I've got 4 by 3, so I've got 12 squares here on each side, and it's just something that you can just look at and see rather than a plain piece. And these are the pieces that are left, I think. Okay, what am I going to do with those? And I think I'm going to cut them up and put them into a background. So I'm going to have a play when we've gone, and I'm going to see what I can do with all the pieces that I've got left over. So that might be a good idea for you as well, to have a look and think how you can just put them next to each other, how you can add them back into each other. You're very quiet.
We're watching.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're still there.
Intrigued.
Intrigued. But does that make sense? So look, I've got all those little bits left over, and I say I never waste those. I love those little bits. So I've got I was completely not intending to make a 4x3 square. And I think when it dries, I think it will be much more interesting than it is now. But you've sort of got a lot of forever playing around. Does that make sense? And that you can just chop up all these little pieces and even use those into, you could just go like that and chop them up and use them in something else, or use them back in a picture. I quite like lots of little pieces all chopped up. So I might have a background, for example. Let's put up.
Should we see what everyone's done?
Yes, please.
Put it back on gallery.
Thank you.
Nikki, should we see yours?
Yes, well, what
No.
I did was I chopped them all up into lots and lots of little pieces, long
Yep.
strips, and then I put the
Orange.
on the back, and then just a few little strands of orange coming over, which I hope when it's dry, it will lift a bit more.
Yes. Add. What about a color that is complementary, that's completely, so you've used the blues, used the orange, didn't use the background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the dark blue. So what do you think?
Yeah,
I'm doing in?
Sometimes what you need to do, as you say, is to let it dry and actually have a look at it then, and then you'll go, oh, okay, or yes, actually that is really how I wanted it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This was just, as you say, throwing it all together.
Yeah.
It was a great
and you might say at the end of it, actually it's not quite what I wanted, but actually you can cut it up again.
Yeah,
you could cut it up horizontal. So the way you're holding it now, the way you're holding it now, you could cut it up horizontally, and use it in something else.
Yeah,
you know, if you decide. And it's about just adding and building it up a bit like last week, but it's just going into that further depth, because you just get that movement in the colors and the fibers. But the more you felt it, obviously, that you've got the more happening, and the more fibers are going to migrate, so that it will change color.
Yeah, great.
All right, and also once it's dry, it will as well. So the idea is to just keep playing, yes, and finding what works. And was it Sheila? Can we spotlight Sheila a second? Did you say you were using a color you don't like?
Well, I've sort of had two on the go.
Well done.
They're not thick enough yet, but that was the first one.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's very painterly, isn't it?
It had sort of orange and yellow in it, and the other one, which I've just cut up, is more yellowy. I don't know whether it's very wet.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, into nice strips, and then you've got the bands going across.
Yeah.
So you could put that into you could just use those separately. You could you could cross them over and do them so that, here you can see that better on there, can't you? Can you see that you've got lots of squares, and then that side as well?
Yeah.
And I just did that you saw what I did. I just interwove. I wasn't intending to do that, but it's sort of I still quite like my idea of that green that went across the page that I had earlier on, but I chopped that up, and once it's chopped up, that's it, isn't it? But can you see? And then of course you've still got the silk up this side. You've got the silk, which is very light and it shines when you finished.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yes, so maybe try that. You know, you'll find what suits you and what suits, but never, I say, don't worry that you don't like something, because I quite often, for example, here, look, do you remember from last time? I didn't show you. Do you remember the pieces? So where's the other pieces? They're here. So I chopped up, here we are. I chopped up those, yeah, and put them into there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And you can see, and that's the other thing, you got that dark black line because there was black behind that piece. But you know, if you didn't like those pieces and you chop them up, I mean, I think that's got, you know, those 3 pieces are much nicer now.
Yeah.
You know, when you've chopped them up and put them into a background.
Yeah.
It's all about playing, but it's hopefully giving you an idea that you can just grab a few of the colors, but thinking about it a little bit more, and so that you've got a little bit more understanding of the color. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great.
Cool. We're nearly out of time. So have you got any questions about next week? So next week we're going to be, I need you to have some black wool ready, or your bubble wrap. We'll do it together, all right? So you need some water, some soap, the black, a picture or not, or you can just be freehand, and we'll be making it sort of, you know, something that's comfortable on your desk size or whatever that you've got, and I'll be showing you how to do out the line. We'll infill and then we'll put a background on it so that you get a very definitive edge that way. All right.
Great.
So that's that one. Any questions? I'll put that link to the viscose on the WhatsApp.
Lovely. Thank
So
you.
just
Okay,
to
and
remind
if-
everybody, we have a WhatsApp group, so we can, Sarah will put some details on there, but also you can add anything you do so that Sarah can comment over the week.
Yes.
Lovely.
So if you want to show me your pieces, or you've cut them up and say, oh, I don't like that, what should I do? Or you want to show me what you've done, we can all see it, okay? Because it's easy to just take a picture with your phone, isn't it? And then just put it to the group, all right? And if there's a bit you don't like, you know, you can do a circle on there or something and say, or what do I do? Or any suggestions, what color I should add, anything like that, all right? I'm very happy over the week to keep commenting, all right? I'm about, so that's not a problem. But just have a play and have some fun and just see if we can have lots of pretty felts. And I will finish this one off and make another piece with these pieces this afternoon. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else, Claire?
No, that's lovely, wonderful class. I wish I was doing it, but unfortunately I couldn't today, but I'll catch up, ready for next week.
Lovely.
Yes, Claire, you need to do your homework, yeah?
We'll all do our homework.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, but send me lots of questions or anything. I'm happy to answer, all right?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sarah.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.